Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa, and on today's video we're going to be talking about what narcissism actually is. But before I go any further into the video, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. I'm a new content creator, so the support and the interaction with my videos is really very much appreciated. So again, thank you for being here. Also, I wanted to mention that I'm not a clinician, I'm not a professional. All the content I create is basically based in my own opinions and experiences. But if you feel that you are struggling and you need help, do ask for help. If you don't feel comfortable approaching a professional, talk to someone that you trust, because there is help at hand and things do take time, but you will get there eventually. The main reason for me creating this channel is to bring awareness on narcissistic abuse. Narcissists are everywhere these days. So yes, I understand that it's a very hot topic. People starting to talk about it. Me, like many other content creators on YouTube, have been through situations in our lives which have made us learn about ourselves and the people that we are surrounded with. The purpose of this content is for you not to stop seeking help out there from professionals, but more like an information resource that you can go to, as my experience or similar experiences might make you understand what you're going through a little bit better. And narcissists are very difficult to treat, if not impossible. So narcissists are very rarely diagnosed with NPD. People with narcissistic personality disorder that are aware of who they are, but the vast majority of narcissists will not go to therapy and will not get a diagnosis. I do not need a diagnosis to understand that what I have been through is emotional abuse. I was never physically abused, but it was a slow process of manipulation, and you don't really know what you're dealing with until you experience it yourself. My experiences might be very different to yours, but what you might get from content like this is patterns of behavior that you might actually be able to associate to a situation that you're going through. So saying that, what is actually narcissism? I have been doing a lot of research on the topic, especially because it affected me. I needed to find answers to the questions that I kept asking myself in my relationship with someone I strongly believe has NPD. And I mention again, a person doesn't have to have a written diagnosis for you to know that you're dealing with some sort of abuse. These patterns are, narcissists are very predictable. They are very intelligent and highly manipulative, although people will say that they are not actually that intelligent. There is a certain amount of intelligence you need to be able to read, understand, and manipulate people. And don't get me wrong, this is very general and obviously is not a given, but the vast majority of narcissists do know that their behaviors are not right. They might not know they're a narcissist, but they do know that the way they behave towards you is toxic and very damaging emotionally or even physically at times. So what is narcissism? I have been doing plenty of research on the topic, and what I understand narcissism is, it is a coping mechanism or a self-defense mechanism. It is developed during childhood, and you are not born a narcissist, you are made a narcissist. There might be some genetic predispositions to narcissism, and if you suffer from any type of neurodevelopmental disorders or conditions like ADHD, you are at a higher risk of developing a personality disorder like narcissism. But as I said, it is developed during childhood, usually because of the circumstances of your upbringing. There are different ways to bring in children, and parenting is one of the most difficult things that you will ever have to do. I myself have 2 young children, and it is extremely challenging. So the way you bring these children up during those formative years will dictate what kind of person they become in the future. If you have already some sort of psychological condition like ADHD, and is not treated as a child, you are more likely to develop a personality disorder just to be able to cope with the world around you because your needs aren't met. Your parents are not giving you what you need. You're not getting what you need from your environment. So it's very tricky to say what is good parenting and what is bad parenting because everyone is different. But what I will say for sure is that you have to install morals and values in children for them to be able to cope with the real world. It is okay to tell children off. It is okay to say to them that behavior wasn't right. But if all your resources go into criticizing them and not letting them develop in a healthy way, the chances of this child creating a personality disorder is much higher. So typical cases when a child might develop narcissism as an adult, but don't forget, as I said, narcissism starts in childhood. You might have had that kind of parent that was always pushing you to be the best at something. You know, you had to be the captain of the team. You have to be the best at art. You have to be the most studious, the most intelligent with the better grades at school. So that created some sort of stresses as a child that you needed to continuously push yourself to become what your parent wanted to be. So in that case, the child creates this kind of shield or fantasy world just to be able to please that parent. On the other spectrum, how a person might develop narcissism, you might be highly criticized continuously by that parent or prime carer. And then you don't have the resources as a child to be able to understand. You might be continuously put down and continuously criticized for whatever thing that you do. So if on top of that, you're suffering with any other kind of issues, like I already said, the chances of you building a world where you exist and you have all that power is much greater. So what are the characteristics of narcissism? The main two characteristics of narcissism are control and fuel, and they are obviously linked together. If you threaten or remove one of those two, there is high chance that you have become self-aware, because people are in relationships with this type of human beings for many, many years, and they don't put two and two together. The reason why that happens is because they create trauma bonding to that person, and they get used to the pattern of abuse. In cases, they might even defend the person abusing them because they might see little nuggets of kindness every now and then. But if you start becoming self-aware and your behavior starts to change around the narcissist, and that narcissist notice the change on behavior in you, then things start getting really, really dark, because that will up the antics of the narcissistic abuse. Fuel, on the other hand, is their oxygen. They need validation. They need continuous praise. So if you also change or withdraw the amount of fuel that you give to a narcissist, they will also see this change of behaviors. And narcissistic fuel, or narcissistic supply, as other people call it, comes in any kind of shape. It can be positive, it can be negative. Something simple like a look to a narcissist or a slight criticism is fuel. If you praise them or if you give them compliments, that is fuel. If you start an argument, or if you become sad or start crying or talk about feelings, that is also fuel to a narcissist. But if you, like me, at some point start thinking that the situation you're in is not quite normal, you might start doing some research, like I did again. And then things start making sense in your head. You call out the narcissist and there's no reaction. In fact, I said this in other videos before, they might call you a narcissist. Because this is another point. Most narcissists do not know that they are narcissists. They are the high self-aware narcissists, and they actually use the narcissism to get by in life, usually quite powerful and quite influential people. But the vast majority of narcissists do not even know that they are a narcissist. Narcissists cannot tell you, I am a narcissist, because they do not self-reflect, they do not look within. And if you call them a narcissist, as I said, they probably don't even know what that means. There is a certain amount of grandiosity from covert and overt. They all have grandiosity, but the behaviors of each narcissist is different, but the pattern of distraction is the same. Another thing I wanted to add as well, narcissists live in a fantasy, a continuous fantasy. Reality doesn't agree with a narcissist. And if you threaten the fantasy or try to bring them down to reality, there will be consequences to this. I believe now, because I've done some really good research, that a narcissist suffers from high psychosis. And the reason I'm saying this is because psychosis is a condition where the reality doesn't align with the fantasy that they live in. There is a high degree of psychosis or delusion that a narcissist exhibits. Again, they cannot come to terms with reality. They have dreams of grandiosity, of power. The reality that we all live in is a threat to their narcissism. So they choose to stay in that fantasy land until it becomes too real, until things really start collapsing around them. And that is when maybe might look into getting some help. But it's super rare, because somehow narcissists seem to go through life without facing the real consequences of their behavior, which I find completely unfair. And we, in many ways, as people with high empathy, sort of exercise their narcissism, sort of encourage that behavior until we become so aware that we just decide, I need to get out of this relationship. If I don't get out, I'm done. If I don't get out, this is going to affect me for the rest of my life. And that is the reason I'm making these videos. A great example of this is the movie American Psycho, where that narcissistic psychopath lived in his head. And he believed that all those things that he was experiencing were real. But ultimately, it was all in his head. Reality just wasn't an option. Narcissism or narcissists are very popular words at the moment. And what you cannot do is call anyone that behaves in a way that you might dislike a narcissist. This is quite important, because if someone that you are close to display some sort of dickhead behavior towards you, it might not necessarily mean that they are a narcissist. This is part of the personality, and we all have narcissistic traits. It might be that they are in a place in their lives where they're really struggling and they retaliate and they behave in a certain way. But in order to be diagnosed with NPD, you have to have a minimum of 9 traits, and you have to display the characteristics of the behavior for a prolonged amount of time. And this is why I believe that the person I was with has narcissistic personality disorder, because I experienced it and I really struggled at times. It was a daily battle and really painful experience as well. I did learn loads from it, and it made me potentially a better person, more understanding, educating myself and reading so much about it, listening. And I'm coming to my own conclusions about the disorder too. And it's not hate that I have towards him, none whatsoever. And I say, and I mean it. I do not wish him anything bad to happen to him. But I needed to get out of that relationship to be able to thrive in life, to be able to be myself again, not to be a victim of a person's disorder. I choose life. So the best way to deal with a person in your life that might display high narcissistic traits or might be an undiagnosed narcissist is to get away from them. Whatever way you can, get away from them. At this point, if you're watching videos like this, you probably are very aware of what you're dealing with. You have to reach a point where you have to decide the quality of a life that you want to live. For me, certainly was a very difficult decision. There are better days and worse days. You still think of those amazing times that you had together, and I still do sometimes. Things might remind me of this person, experiences that we had together. So I'm not going to say that everything was bad, because there were some nuggets of great times as well. But the overall feeling that you will get from a narcissistic relationship is pain and rumination, and you will be continuously questioning your mental health and your sanity. So yes, this is what I believe narcissism is and how it's linked to other disorders. And if you feel that you got something out of this video, please like and subscribe and comment. I will try to reply to as many comments as I can. But until my next video, I just wanted to say thanks again. Thank you for watching, and see you again very soon. Take care. Bye.